The formation of early pueblos in Batangas during the first century of Spanish colonization reflected the intersecting aims of evangelization, political control, and population concentration under the colonial system of reducción. The reducción was a Spanish colonial policy that forced scattered Filipino communities to relocate into centralized towns called pueblos near a church and plaza. Spanish expeditions led by Martín de Goiti and Juan de Salcedo, under the command of Miguel López de Legazpi, reached southern Luzon between 1570 and 1572, opening the way for the Augustinian missionaries who soon established the first organized settlements in the region. The Augustinians were the earliest religious order to work in Batangas, and it was largely through their initiative that dispersed native barangays were gathered into nucleated communities called pueblos. The founding of these settlements followed official colonial criteria: access to water, fertile land, wood for construction, defensibility, and proximity to existing native populations. Among the earliest of these pueblos was Tal, originally founded around 1572 at Balangon on the shores of Lake Bombon, the old Tal Lake, by Fray Agustín de Albuquerque, OSA. Balangon first served as a visita, an outpost of the Augustinian mission field, before gaining status as a pueblo once a sufficient Christian population and permanent convent had been established. Repeated attacks by southern raiders known as Moros, together with the devastating eruption of the Tal volcano in 1754, forced multiple relocations of this settlement from its lakeside origins to safer ground near Balayan Bay. A similar pattern of movement affected other Batangas towns. They were founded near the lake or river systems for accessibility, but were later transferred inland to avoid both raids and natural hazards. Another early center was Balayan, established by 1578 under Franciscan supervision, notably through the work of Fray Esteban Ortiz and Fray Juan de Porras. It will be noted that Balayan had existed even when de Goiti and de Salcedo first explored Luzon in 1570. The Balayan that is mentioned here is the Pueblo or Christian community established by the Spanish friars. Its jurisdiction once encompassed vast territories including present-day Calaca, Lian, Tui, and Calatagan. Around 1580 or 1581, the town of Batangas, then called Batangan, meaning place of logs, appeared in Augustinian records with about 600 tributary inhabitants. Tanawan followed in 1584, located on the lake shore together with its smaller neighbor Sala. Both were later moved inland after the 1754 eruption. Boan was initially a visita of Tal, founded by the Augustinians near what is now San Nicolas in 1590. Lipa, originally called San Sebastian, was founded in 1605 and likewise experienced periodic relocation because of environmental changes around the lake. The Augustinians remained the primary agents of pueblo formation in the province during the 16th and 17th centuries, although the Franciscans occasionally held jurisdiction in certain areas before transferring control. Missionaries generally began by creating a visita, building a small chapel and dwelling, then petitioning colonial authorities to recognize it as a pueblo once population and agricultural output justified the change. This pattern mirrored wider practices across the archipelago described in Spanish law under the Leyes de Indias, which regulated the design and spacing of pueblos de indios, settlements centered on the church plaza, the convent, and the tribunal. The Augustinian Memoria of 1892 notes that Batangas pueblos grew around these ecclesiastical cores, with native houses arranged in rows radiating from the plaza in conformity with the prescribed grid pattern. Environmental and security concerns were constant determinants of settlement stability. The 1754 eruption of Tal volcano, one of the largest in recorded Philippine history, destroyed or buried several original poblaciones, including the first sites of Tanawan and Lipa. Earlier, raids from the south had repeatedly depopulated coastal towns. Jesuit and Augustinian letters record that many inhabitants fled to higher ground, forcing priests to re-establish parishes elsewhere. Thus, While Spanish policy aimed for permanence and order, Batangas's pueblos evolved through cycles of destruction and relocation shaped by natural and human forces. Primary sources for these developments include missionary chronicles, Augustinian convent records, and Spanish administrative documents such as the Erección de Pueblos, housed in the National Archives of the Philippines, which contains decrees, petitions, and maps concerning the legal founding of municipalities. Secondary compilations like Manuel Sastron's Batangas y su Provincia, 1895, corroborate these foundations with approximate dates and demographic notes, describing how the Augustinians, often with the support of local principales, organized scattered barangays into towns with churches, schools, and regular tribute collection. By the early 17th century, the network of pueblos in Batangas, Taal, Balayan, Batangas, Tanawan, and Lipa formed the administrative and ecclesiastical backbone of the province. Their creation embodied the objectives of the Spanish colonial state: to Christianize, to govern efficiently, and to integrate local communities into the imperial structure. Yet the experience of Batangas also reveals the resilience and adaptation of native communities who repeatedly rebuilt towns after catastrophe and negotiated the realities of colonial life while preserving older kinship and settlement ties beneath the new order of the Pueblo. Thank you for joining Batangas history, culture, and folklore into this journey back to the formation of the towns of Batangas. If you feel you learned something from this video, help this channel out by liking it and subscribing to the channel. See you soon in the next learning video.